You tested positive for serious drugs. While under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office. I'm not finished yet.
Oh, okay.
Why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
This is Judy Justice.
Sister Tiffany Acuna for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters,
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Miss Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting,
Correct.
for how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
Was
over
being
a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children.
Yes,
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021, to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022. So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time, and there was other times I paid her different amounts. But our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well,
So our agreement had changed.
just a second.
Okay.
You have an app, 10 months. How much did you spend on that app?
12,000 something is right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent, and you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally, yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that Just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April, 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before. Then I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
Believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right, and my children
Okay.
didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you
All
the
right.
text?
I don't care where you
Okay.
show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh yeah. So I apologize. Okay, apologize. Sorry.
Tiffany hands her phone to Kevin.
On April 24th. So if you want, and then she can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Kevin brings the phone to Judy, who reviews it.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh,
too.
no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's
Right.
not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them? Mm-hmm. How much child support do you receive?
$300
$300 a what?
a month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something, I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job, and got it,
Sometimes, yeah.
$400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there? And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her. You
No,
were
I was
a
gone
little
for
more
3.5 weeks.
You were gone for almost a month. She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay, and your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night.
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month.
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister.
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, like
just
the
a sec-
whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were missing.
Okay, which couches? Couches from where to where?
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement. What happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those 2 items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those 2 couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
Caption, coming up.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Lucinda and Tiffany.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
How far she owes you for rent?
the TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer, she took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds,
just a
carpet.
second, just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Lucinda produces photos, then hands them to Kevin.
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds. And this was damages from her cat.
Kevin brings the photos to Judy, who reviews them.
Well, this I can't see at all. Okay, so that I can't see at all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, putty them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were
Okay.
broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house,
Okay.
like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of
Right.
the house. This
My
is
daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
she doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
She says she doesn't remember. I have to rely on what you say to me because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Lucinda hands a document to Kevin. You
do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
Kevin hands the document to Judy, who reviews it.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times two.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For two blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are two different windows.
Oh, times two. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's
Okay. If you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit.
Okay.
Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident
Yup is
report.
yes. You called the police, and the police came. And when the police came on, do we have the date?
26
20
April.
The
Correct.
police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with two sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was called in?
Well, they called me Real quick.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me, but first I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who's here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the older sister
when
from
did-
these two. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called, Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda
Yes.
on April 26th.
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you
called.
recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was,
The daughter is the 5-year-old?
yes. And
Okay, not the
lice
2-year-old.
Yeah, she supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me, I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay, and your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message because
Just a second, was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her
Yes.
boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay, and that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to, supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous? And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that.
Well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why
She
is this
made
justified?
the comment that
so she called
Tiffany
you.
has not been there.
Okay, you had to ask
My
her
words
why.
to her were, how do you know this when you're never there?
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well,
But I knew it was going to be happening.
okay. Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay, now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes,
Okay, and you left your kids alone, correct?
with my sister.
With your sister. Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You have to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their work.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right,
I don't need you to reinforce
Thank
what I
you.
just said.
Caption coming up.
You had had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports too, if I may, please. Thank you. Okay.
I'm not finished.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Lucinda and Tiffany.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble? Because
It
you
was
seem...
many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children, who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof, just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proved.
Okay.
The CPS.
When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. I've had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that right?
He did treat it. He told me. He told me immediately.
So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All 3 boys,
Oh, yeah,
all 3 kids were taken.
Now sit.
Okay. Okay. There you go, sir.
Tiffany hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay, you had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relatively current Child Protective proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my
And
tests.
at that time, well, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay, that's what this report says.
Right.
You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right
Do
away.
you have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me,
Right.
that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports too, if I may, please. Thank you. Okay.
I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, you know, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history, didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened 2019 or 2020, that's still recent history.
Okay.
So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you, we're done.
My
This court is
property,
adjourned.
We're done.
Tiffany.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and it was like a oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I've just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
Sarah and Judy.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
You know, when people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS, current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself
It's
for the
basis
claim.
itself, yeah, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no, they're watching.
Yeah.
They're watching, and they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all of those kids, that they're not getting all the loving and nurturing that they should.
Hopefully, maybe after today, she turns it around.
Maybe.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You rent a room to the defendant.
He says that he's not gonna follow house rules anymore.
You were royally miffed.
So we get into this altercation and we're like wrestling.
Traumatic injury of the head, blunt trauma of the neck.
And he puts me into a chokehold, and I black out.
This is Judy Justice. Rodriguez is suing his former tenant, Samuel Gastelum, for an assault.
Judy enters the courtroom.
Court come to order. All rise.
She takes her seat behind the bench.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2035, Rodriguez versus Gastelum.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
what kind of a premises do you live in, sir?
It's a 4-bedroom house.
And I see here that you rent out some of the rooms in order to assist with your mortgage.
That's correct.
How many rooms do you rent out?
3.
And who lives in the other?
Right now it's Kathleen Meister, and then I have 2 other roommates.
And you use one room?
Correct.
When did you rent a room to the defendant?
It was January 22.
And what was the rent that you were charging him?
$750 a month.
When he came to you, did he have a dog?
No.
When did you move in?
About late January.
Give me a day.
22nd.
And you moved in alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Paid your rent on time?
Yes, ma'am.
February, paid your rent on time?
Yes, ma'am.
Lived there alone?
Yes, ma'am.
What about March?
Did I live there alone in March also? Yes, ma'am.
When did you get a dog?
I've had my dog
No, when did you get a dog that you brought into the house?
April 22nd, 23rd.
So several months after you moved in. Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And before you moved the dog in, did you have a discussion with the plaintiff?
Yes, ma'am.
Just prior to moving in with the dog. And what was the discussion that you had with the plaintiff?
That if it was okay if I were to bring my dog that I had in Alaska, since I've had him since he was about 6-7 weeks.
And where had he been in the last 2 months?
He was still in Alaska staying with close friends, and I flew to Seattle, shipped my truck and all my belongings to Seattle and drove here. From Seattle, my dog, the person who was watching him, drove from Alaska to Montana, and I had gone to Montana to pick him up.
So you asked Mr. Rodriguez if it was okay if you brought your dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
Yes.
Did he say anything else?
He said, just clean
Now
up.
look at me.
He said,
Did he say anything else
clean
other
up
than...
after the dog, make sure that the dogs don't fight, and just take care of him.
Okay. Nothing about him staying out of the house?
He said he wouldn't prefer him to be around the house, but he would not. It would be okay for him to be in my room.
In your room?
The dog stayed with me in that room a few nights, and he knowingly knew about it.
No, I don't want to know what he knew. I want to know what your arrangement was. So your arrangement with him, according to you, now, I haven't asked him, but according to you, is that you asked him if you could bring your dog. He said okay for the dog to stay outside, but could stay in your room.
He said he didn't want him in the living area. My dog could also be in the garage or
in your room. And was everything okay in April when you brought the dog?
Yeah, everything was
What
fine.
about May?
May, I was looking for a new place. I was homeless because I had spent 5 days in jail.
Oh, I'm talking about before you went to jail, sir. Before you went to jail, because this case is about an assault, which is what the plaintiff is claiming. Plaintiff is claiming that you assaulted him in the home, and that took place on April 30th. That was shortly after your dog arrived.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the dog was the reason for the altercation.
A part of
because
the reason, but that's
in
how it started.
February, March, and up until April, the end of April, when the dog was there, I see no evidence here that there was any difficulty.
You're right.
Fair statement? Yeah. So that the problem arose when the dog came. Now, this woman's name is Kathleen. She's interspersed in both the complaint and the answer. In this case, she had a cat. Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
He had a cat. And it was a house cat.
Yes, ma'am.
Plaintiff has a dog.
A few dogs.
And they live in the house.
Yes, they stay in the garage and in the backyard, yes.
Garage and backyard, do they stay in the house?
They do not go inside that.
Okay, so his dogs stay outside, and he said to you, according to you, the dogs can stay outside in the garage and in your room.
Yes.
In April, did your dog get out of your room or into the house?
Yes.
Yes. On what date?
April 30th, because I was allowing him inside to go to my room.
On April 30th, the dog was where?
In the backyard, but I was bringing him inside to come to my room.
You were bringing him from outside to come into your room. I haven't asked him. He says in his papers that the dog was supposed to remain outside. You were bringing him inside to your room.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it is your claim here that it is an emotional support dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also had at least a couple of months where you left the dog in Alaska.
With
people
I trust.
I don't care people who you trust or not. If you needed an emotional support animal, the emotional support animal has to travel with you. So don't show me a certificate. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, did that certificate that you have come from a psychiatrist?
No.
No. Did it come from a psychologist?
No.
Did it come from any doctor who was treating you?
There was a doctor's note, yes.
Was a doctor who was treating you?
Yes.
Yes. Not a psychiatrist?
Not a psychiatrist, no.
Not a psychologist?
Not a psychologist.
And you took this note and you had to send it to somebody over the internet?
Yes.
And then they sent you a certificate.
Yes, and with an ID.
That's what I got. Okay, so now you're bringing the dog on April 30th from the backyard into the house, and?
He attempts to grab the dog.
No. Is the dog on a leash?
No, he's very well.
Just a second. Is the dog on a leash?
No.
Were you holding the dog by the collar?
Yes.
And now you're taking the dog from outside to inside. What did he say to you?
No dogs in the house.
Because that's what he had said to you before. You can have your dog, but no dogs in the house. I want to tell you something. That's what I believe. So he said, no dogs in the house. And you said to him,
I'm going to bring my dog into my room.
But when you asked him if you could bring the dog to the house, there is no question in my mind that he said to you, bring the dog to the house, but the dog doesn't come into the house.
He stayed in my room a few nights prior to that.
I don't
and
care.
He had already
Listen to me.
approved
That's what the arrangement was, sir.
Okay.
The arrangement was not what you told me before. The arrangement was with him. Yes, you can bring the dog to the house. I will let you do that. But the dog has to stay either in the garage or outside like my dogs.
Okay.
And you said, in effect, screw you. I'm bringing my dog, and I'm bringing my dog into my room.
In effect.
You're the tenant. That was the agreement. You can have the dog, but the dog must not be in the house. That's what your landlord told you. You brought the dog from Alaska, and at the very beginning, you brought the dog into your room.
Mm-hmm.
When had you decided that you were going to breach the agreement with him?
The very first night I went to receive my dog, he stayed at the house inside my room with me.
So the very first night that you brought him, you decided to breach the agreement that
He
you
had
had with him.
knowingly said it was okay.
Did you tell him it was okay?
Never. I have texts.
I'd like to see it.
I have to scroll back.
Scroll
quite
to
a
wherever
while.
you have to scroll. Scroll down to the creation. I don't care. I have all day here. Nobody is hungry.
I'm a
Still
little
have
hungry.
2 more cases to do before lunch. Everybody gets a little testy, including me.
I don't have the text. I do not have the text.
Yeah, good. That's what I thought. Okay. It wasn't on the 30th that the dog got loose in the house. It was sometime before that, maybe a day or so before that. On the 30th was a day, sir, that you got locked out of the house. Uh-huh
Yes,
is
Your
not
Honor.
an answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what time of the day was it that you got locked out of the house?
2 o'clock after middle afternoon, late afternoon.
And according to what I read, you went to the back of the house to let yourself into the house, and you got into an altercation with Kathleen. Absolutely, she shouldn't have put her hands on and slapped you because you were fresh. Because you wouldn't be fresh to me, right?
Fresh?
Fresh. That's what you say to a child. Fresh. How old are you?
65.
How old are you?
25.
That's fresh.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Armando and Samuel.
Armando Rodriguez claims his former tenant, Samuel Gastelum, is responsible for damages from an assault. Samuel says he was the one assaulted and falsely arrested.
Now, you got into an altercation with Kathleen.
Not quite, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what happened.
I had been outside, I went out the garage, and I was playing a time-sensitive game on my Xbox. So I was going back to the room, and I knocked on the garage door. No one answered, knocked on it a few times, pounded. Then I went back around and knocked on the sliding glass door a few times, one of the few times. Finally, Kathleen comes up and answers the door. At that point, I've been out there for about 10 minutes. So I'm upset. I'm like, who locked me out? Who locked the door? She gets completely defensive. She says, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And I'm like, I'm asking who it was, because Armando and I had discussed.
Because you're on a time-sensitive
Yes, ma'am.
video game.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
So you were on a time-sensitive
yes, I was
video
doing
game.
Something
How old are you?
25 years old.
Okay, so now you're on a time-sensitive video game and somebody either on purpose or accidentally locked the door, and you think it's Kathleen.
No, I did not accuse anyone. I just
Okay.
asked was who locked me out, because I had been locked out earlier that week, again,
Did you-
earlier, by Armando.
Just a second. Did you have a key to the house?
On my...
No. Did you have...
I had a front door key, not to the garage door, not to the sliding door.
But you had a front door key.
Yes, Your Honor, but there's a gate. There's a big fence, and I didn't have a key to the gate that was locked.
You couldn't get into the house even with your front door key.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, after you had a conversation with her, there was no physicality between the two of you.
Not at that moment, but once Armando came around the corner, he's like, it was me who locked you out. So me and him...
No, just a second. He said, it was me that locked you out. Did he say he did that on purpose, or was
it was an accident, is what
Did he
said.
say? Okay, so he said it was me that locked you out. It was an accident.
It wasn't the first time.
It's not.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's yes. first, second, I've locked my children out of the house many times, sometimes on purpose,
I'm not his
sometimes
child.
by accident.
I'm his roommate.
It doesn't make any difference. So he said to you, it was an accident. And you said to him,
It's happened before.
And he said to you,
Those were accidents also.
okay. And he said those were accidents also.
Yes.
And you said to
I
him,
said you need to be more attentive, more aware. If someone had just walked out and left the door unlocked, you should probably go and see if anyone's out there before you turn around and lock the door.
and he said,
He said he apologized.
okay, so he said, I apologize.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Throughout that whole conversation, me and him are arguing
Okay,
back and
but
forth.
at the end, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I apologize.
It's not so clear cut. It's not
Well,
you.
it's at the end of this back and forth. You should have been more careful. You should look to see who's at the door. You've done it before. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I apologize. Now I haven't apologized. And
In
next.
the middle of that altercation, Kathleen kept butting in. She said, you don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to me like that. I said, I wasn't even talking to you. I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm talking to Armando. I said, mind your own business. She said, oh, you don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me what to do. I said, mind your own business. She said, say that to me one more time. And I said, mind your own business. She walks across the hall and she slaps me across the face. And Armando grabs her hand right after she smacks me. And instead of retaliating aggressively or any type of thing, I call the police. Immediately call the police. And while we're waiting there for the police, that's when I get the apology from Armando. That's when he's like, okay, let's make a deal. Let's try to work this out before the police get there. The police get there. They ask me what had happened.
And you say that this older woman slapped you because you were
across
fresh.
the face.
Because you were fresh.
No, because
she
she
shouldn't.
believes
She shouldn't have put her hands on and slapped you because you were fresh. Because you wouldn't be fresh to me, right?
Fresh?
Fresh. That's what you say to a child. Fresh. You were being fresh. And she should not have put her hands on you. Would I have called the police about that? Maybe.
Except
but
I am not a child, Your
just
Honor.
a sec.
I'm not a child. I'm not related to these people.
I just said to you, you were being fresh. How old are you?
65.
How old are you?
25.
That's fresh. That's fresh, because first you accused her of locking you out.
I didn't accuse her.
Yeah. Okay. So after she slapped you, the police arrived. They left. She said, she slapped you. Yes. You have marks. You have cuts. You have bruises. You have abrasions. No. They left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did you expect when you called the police for them to arrest her? What did you want them to do, sir?
Was I supposed to retaliate? How was I supposed to retaliate? Was I supposed to hit her back?
Just a second. No.
Okay, then what was I supposed to do?
I'm not telling you what to do.
Okay.
I'm just asking you, sir, did you expect them, when you called the police, to arrest Kathleen because she slapped you?
No, I expected there to be consequences for her assaulting me.
What? So
I don't know
what
what
did
the
you think?
consequences
So
were.
what did
I don't
you
know what
think
those
that they
consequences are.
should do?
Whatever they feel was right. Whatever is justice.
Okay. Now let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
So now the police are gone, and
I go speak to Armando. I asked why he sacrificed his integrity for lying for Kathleen, for saying that she didn't slap him, because he told the police he witnessed no such event. He didn't see nothing, even though he was standing right there, grabbed her hand. Kathleen says she didn't do it. And the police came up to me before they left. They said, they're telling me something else. I just straight up, I just don't believe you. I just like, okay, well, what else can I do? I go to Armando and I'm like, why would you sacrifice your integrity? Why would you lie to the police? Why would you let another roommate physically assault me and just no consequences whatsoever? And at that point is when I tried to bring my dog inside and just go straight to my room.
Just a second. So at that time, after this hot spot is over,
it got heated again.
Got heated again.
Mm-hmm.
Your reaction was childish, and you said, I'm going to get my dog that I was told not to bring in the house, and I'm going to bring my dog in the house.
I was going to my...
Just a second. I don't care if you were going to Pluto. Your reaction after this was, they can't tell me what to do. I'm going outside, and I'm going to bring my dog inside. He'll let you bring the dog to the house, but the dog can't come in the house, stays outside with his dogs. There's only one animal in the house, and that's Kathleen's house cat. That's it. So you went to bring your dog from outside to in the house.
Yes, Your Honor.
In violation of the agreement that you had with your landlord. After the police had come, I just want you to realize what's going on.
Oh,
I just want you to realize that they don't actually keep me here because I'm 5'6" and gorgeous. I understand what happened when you were disappointed that Kathleen had slapped you like a child because you were fresh. And she's not your mother, and she had no right, even your mother doesn't have a right to put their hands on you.
Correct.
But you got slapped. not injured, no broken jaw, no broken skin. Police didn't see anything because if they did, they would have arrested somebody. And they left. And you were royally miffed. Because you got locked out of the house, for which he apologized, you missed your time-sensitive video game. Now, I'm not sure what that is, because I'm not a 25-year-old idiot that plays video games during the day.
Caption coming up. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Armando and Samuel.
Armando Rodriguez is accusing his former roommate, Samuel Gastelum, of breaking their rental agreement and assaulting him. Samuel claims he was falsely arrested after Armando lied to the police.
Now, several things that happened that day, right? You got locked out and you were playing a time-sensitive video game.
Yes, Your Honor.
And because you got locked out of the house, for which he apologized, you missed your time-sensitive video game. Now, I'm not sure what that is, because I'm not a 25-year-old idiot that plays video games during the day. When I was 25 years old, I actually worked. I did, I actually worked. I know that may seem foreign to you, but I did actually work. And so after all of this altercation took place, you said, now I'm gonna show him, now I'm gonna bring my dog into the house. And then there was another altercation. Second one.
Yes.
That's the one we're talking about. By the way, maybe I'm being terribly unkind to you, sir. How do you support yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Pretty foreign, I know.
For whom?
I'm a cultivator.
You work 5 days a week?
Yes, Your Honor. And in my free time,
What do you
I like to
cultivate?
play video
What do you
games.
what do you cultivate?
Marijuana, cannabis.
How long have you worked for them?
Since March, so about 5 months.
Prior to that, you were in Alaska.
Prior to January, I was in Alaska. Before March, before getting the job at the cultivation facility for cannabis, I was helping my uncles do concrete. So working isn't very foreign to me, as you might see.
Prior to March, you were working with your uncles in concrete.
Yes,
Where?
Your Honor. In Victorville, in California.
You were working. You were working for your uncle prior to March, getting a job as a cultivator. And what I want to know is, how long had you been separated from your emotional support dog?
I spent 4 months away from him, and those 4 months were from January to April. For finding a
January,
job.
February, March, April. And what were you doing in Alaska?
I was born and raised in Alaska.
Alaska is not a born, that's not a job, sir. What were you doing in Alaska?
I was, for the last 6 months of my time in Alaska, I was a bud tender.
Okay, tell me what happened after the dog incident.
Well, the dog comes in. He says that he's not going to follow house rules anymore. He says as of right now, he's going to do what he wants to do. So he just gets the dog from the backyard and he comes inside the house. And I feel that it's my responsibility to enforce the house rules. So I physically grab his dog and I move the dog from inside the house to the backyard. That happens once. He gets the dog and then he physically puts him back in the house.
Where in the house?
This is, you could say, the kitchen area. So now I basically attempt to repeat what I did the first time. So I physically grab the dog a second time and I'm now physically taking him out, at which point he gets from behind me and he puts me into a chokehold and I black out. I come to, I look for my phone, I find my phone, dial 911, police show up like in maybe 2 or 3 minutes and I'm still trying to get.
And that's the assault that you are referring to
Yes, ma'am.
today. Did the EMS check you out?
I was taken to the hospital.
May I see the report?
Yeah, I got a report and then I have
He produces a document.
the bills associated with
Okay.
with.
Was Kathleen a witness to this?
She saw.
No,
like-
don't tell me what she saw. Was she a witness to any part of that?
Yeah,
Yes or a no?
yeah.
Okay. Would you step up, please?
Kathleen stands at Armando's side.
Tell me at what point you came in on this altercation.
When they were arguing about the dog.
The first time or the second time? Or you don't know whether...
I don't really know.
Were you a witness to any of the physical confrontation that resulted in Mr. Rodriguez going to the hospital?
I knew that they...
Don't tell me what you knew.
Okay.
It's what you saw.
Okay, what I saw was Armando trying to put the dog back outside, because he's a big pit bull, right? And then he would put him out, and then Samuel would bring him back in. And then the last time, Armando was putting him back outside, and Samuel came behind Armando. And what I did was I left and went and called the police, because I was afraid he was going to get hurt.
All right, sir. Now tell me your version of those events.
Could I show her statement from the previous court?
No, I want you to first tell me your version of the events.
So I let Apollo inside. My dog's name is Apollo, and he's going to grab Apollo to let him out. And we're both kind of grabbing Apollo, pulling him, we're both kind of fighting over him a little bit. As I'm pulling him inside more, Armando starts grabbing me. And so we get into this altercation, and we're like wrestling back and forth.
Just a second. He's trying to get your pit bull outside, and at the same time, he's grabbing you? Is that the...
No, we were both grabbing the dog.
So you were trying to keep the dog inside, and he was trying to put the dog outside?
I was trying to take him to my room, yes. Take him.
You were trying to take him to your room. He was trying to put him outside.
Yes.
And?
As we're both kind of fighting for the dog, he grabs me. He lets go of the dog and then grabs me.
How did he grab you?
He grabs me by the arm, and then he like starts tugging a little bit. And so we're wrestling. We just start wrestling, and it gets a little bit more violent. And I go to restrain him, and he's hitting me. He's hitting me with his arms. He's trying to scratch me, and I just restrained him until I felt not threatened no more. I released him. I get up. I grab my dog. I go to the room. I call the police.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your medical records that day?
They would not take me. They didn't.
They would not take you. Do you have your medical records for that day?
I have my arrest report that says apparently they didn't.
May I see the arrest report, please?
They refused to take pictures.
Don't tell me what they didn't do. I could read.
Kevin takes the document from Samuel, then brings it to Judy.
Do you have medical insurance, sir?
No.
None. Okay, so you had an emergency room CT scan that was $8,640.62. The other bill for that day was for radiology, which was $518. This is the emergency room, which was $1,109. Okay, well, that takes us over this court's limit jurisdictionally. Now, you, sir, subsequently had a hearing with regard to this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you testify, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you testify, sir?
I did.
At the end of that hearing, was there a restraining order granted or not?
It was granted.
For how long? Do you have a copy of that?
I have a copy.
It was a year.
So a judge, like me, probably not as good looking, after hearing, so I don't have to hear it, all of the evidence, the judge found that there was more evidence than not that you assaulted the plaintiff and granted the plaintiff an order of protection for 1 year. After that happened, you were still in the house.
After the assault or after the hearing?
After the assault.
After the assault, I was arrested and
then you came back to the house.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what I asked. You were still in the house, but you're no longer in the house.
No.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
He's a liar, and I told the truth, and I won the case.
I didn't aggressively attack him.
That was the rules that I had set. My dogs don't even come in the house.
I defended myself and my dog.
Sarah and Judy.
I think there was some genuine confusion on the defendant's behalf about the term fresh.
When I said to him, you were fresh to an older person?
Exactly. You know, he had a little bit of an attitude, a little young gun attitude, and the older woman did not appreciate it. So I am very familiar with the term fresh, but I think he was a little confused, but 100% fits the definition of fresh.
It was interesting. The other thing was I didn't seem appalled at the fact that he was doing time-sensitive video games, because I actually understand that from some of our grandchildren.
They take the games very seriously.
Very seriously.
And I could see how missing out on a time-sensitive game could raise an even heated moment even hotter. So.
Especially someone who needs an emotional support pit bull.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You hit the plaintiff's parked car.
Yes, ma'am.
So right on...
Were you there?
No, ma'am.
Sit down. You were approaching an intersection.
I passed this vehicle and everything.
You weren't there. You can leave.
This is Judy Justice.
Gonzalez is suing his neighbors, John and Heather Gilbert, for truck damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2095, Gonzalez versus Gilbert.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Bobby.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, ma'am.
You're seeking substantial amount of money to refurbish your car after it was hit by the defendant's car while your car was parked.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants are seeking the same amount of money because they say that despite the fact that one of them did in fact hit your parked car, it was your fault. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who was driving?
I was driving.
Okay. Mr. Gilbert, on what date did this incident happen?
February 3rd,
What time?
about 5:30 in the morning.
Who was in the car with you?
Nobody. I was by myself. I was going to pick up my son
You were going to pick up your son from where?
from his mother's house to take him to school.
And where does he go to school that he has to be there at 5:30 in the morning?
He doesn't have to be there at 5:30. I have to leave at 5:30 to get him there by 7.
Do you take him to school every day?
No.
What was different about February 3rd?
His mother, stepfather, and the rest of their family was out of town. They had asked me to take him to school that day.
Just for that one day?
Yep.
Yep is not an answer.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
is an
Your Honor.
answer. Okay, so it's about 5:30 in the morning, and?
I left my house. It was
Look at me.
raining. It was cold. It's pretty much the same route I take every day, not at that same time. I was approaching a stop sign at an intersection by the plaintiff's house, and I seen, I guess, either a reflection or what I thought were lights headed in my direction. So I swerved. And
Okay, you're still traveling, so you're moving. Does somebody have a diagram of where this happened? There it is. Okay. You were approaching a stop sign.
yeah, I was approaching an intersection.
So right on...
Were you there?
No, ma'am.
Sit down.
Yes, ma'am.
Heather sits.
You were approaching an intersection.
Yeah.
It's a two-way road.
Yeah.
And it looks to me from that, is that an accurate representation?
Yeah, except for there was another vehicle on the other side of the road.
Okay, but it looks to me that you're traveling sort of in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it floods.
Okay, and a car is coming from something. You're not sure what.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it
You
was.
were not sure what.
And I swerved. I
you
just got over to the proper side of the road.
And your car swerved, and when your car swerved, it hit that blue car that's sitting there. That's the plaintiff's car that was sitting in front of his house.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an
Yes, ma'am.
answer. Yes, okay. Now, do you want to tell me what you did next?
I went through the intersection, turned around to follow what I thought might have been a vehicle headed my direction. And when I didn't see a vehicle, I took my vehicle home, I parked it, I got my insurance information, my driver's license, and I walked back to his house to trade insurance information with him.
Okay. You have a video of this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
From where?
From my surveillance cameras.
Is it set up for me to watch it
Yes,
here?
ma'am. Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm ready. That's your car, sir?
Yes.
Okay, let's see that again.
Footage of a collision.
Notice how the truck is covered?
Okay, so you hit the plaintiff's car hard enough to push it up on the curb.
Speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
I've just asked you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It looks as if you hit it hard enough to push it up on the curb.
Yes, I did.
But you told me a moment ago, Mr. Gilbert, and you just piped in that the speed limit there is 30 miles an hour. You said you were slowing down for a stop sign.
I said I was approaching a stop sign.
Well, when you're approaching a stop sign, you don't approach a stop sign at 30 miles an hour, especially if it's in a neighborhood that you've been in. But according to you, you drive that neighborhood regularly.
Yep.
However, not at that time. That's what you said.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are approaching a stop sign, when I approach a stop sign, and if I know there's a stop sign there, I start applying my brakes a little bit before. Now, I do drive with some people who sort of like to play chicky with a stop sign, you know. Maybe the stop sign is going to move. Maybe it's going to become a welcome mat. So they wait until they get right up to it and put their brakes on. But that's not what you told me you did.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so now I'm going to say, if you were going very slowly, sir, approaching a stop sign, you wouldn't have hit his car with such force that you push him up on the curb. Okay, your defense is to this action, as I said, that he was parked and he had this car that was covered, and it was parked facing the wrong direction, which is totally irrelevant as to was facing the wrong
according to
direction.
Texas state
It
law.
was on. It's covered over, so you don't know which direction it was facing in. Certainly, the light wasn't on it. If you're
I've passed this.
I didn't ask you for anything. You weren't there.
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't there.
Yes, ma'am, but
She lives in the neighborhood. She drives by it every day.
For
Just a
30
second.
years.
What do I need that for? I have a video.
Okay.
I have a
Did
video.
you see the stop sign in the video? No. You have no idea how close I was.
You just told me you were approaching a stop sign.
Yeah,
Would
there
you
is
read
a
that
stop
back to
sign.
me?
There
Would
is a
you?
stop sign.
Would you read that back to me? I was approaching a stop sign. Does he say I slowed down? I was approaching a stop sign. I don't remember.
It's about.
I didn't say.
If you-
I did not
now
say.
you can leave.
I did not say I was slowing down.
Now you can leave.
Heather leaves.
I did not say I was slowing down. I said I was approaching a stop sign.
Okay, that's what I thought. But that's why we have Whitney.
Let's see, he says he was approaching a stop sign at an intersection by the plaintiff's house, and I can see either a reflection or what I see lights headed in my direction, so I swerve.
Now I would like to see that video again one more time. I would like to see if I see something coming towards you. Actually, I don't see another vehicle coming towards you. Is that a truck parked there?
It's a food truck behind it. It's like catty corner to his vehicle. There's a food trailer there that had all of the light, right.
A food truck on the other side of the street?
Yes, ma'am.
A food truck that you could see, but that's parked.
Well, I assume since there was no actual lights coming, I assume maybe that's what light reflected off of.
You don't assume anything. All you know is you saw something that made you swerve.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether it was there or not there. So am I getting the fact that your total defense is based on the fact that his car shouldn't have been parked there?
Yes, ma'am. Or covered.
Yeah, well, but that's a finable offense, Mr. Gilbert. That's a finable offense.
If it doesn't cause an accident.
No, I don't think it caused the accident. You caused the accident.
How did
You
I cause
caused the accident. This is an inert object.
According to my HOA guidelines, that vehicle is supposed to be in his garage. According to Texas state law, it's not supposed to be on the road.
And I'm going to tell you, I absolutely agree with you that that's a finable offense if his car is parked.
So
you're trying to interrupt me.
Okay.
That it's a finable offense. The question is his car being parked illegally the proximate cause of this accident? That's the question. Would that
damn
be a
right
fair?
it is.
I didn't ask you a question unless you went to law school.
Huh? No, ma'am,
unless you went to law school. Am I in the realm? You're closer than that, was Palsgraf versus Long Island Railroad. His car may have been parked in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
If you had somebody that left a baby carriage with a baby on the street, which is certainly against the law and would be a neglectful act on the part of the parent, and if you happen to swerve up to avoid something and hit that baby carriage, you can't say that baby carriage is the cause of the accident.
No,
You're the cause of the accident.
No, the owner of the baby carriage is.
No, you are.
No, they are.
So
how am I responsible for their baby carriage?
Because your car is moving, sir, and if you're approaching a stop sign, you're not supposed to be going.
If the vehicle wasn't covered, you could see the reflectors that are on it. That's what they're there for.
Reflectors on what?
Reflectors on the truck that's covered. They have headlights, turn signals, everything that's reflective that you could see. There was no reflectors or signals for me to see to know it was there.
You would have hit it whether it was covered or not.
Horse.
Very good. May I please see the...
That's horse. I wouldn't have hit it could I seen it.
Kevin, I want to see what he's got as far as work for the car.
Kevin retrieves a document from Bobby, then brings it to Judy.
Okay, so this is clearly a project car, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it don't run.
Get him out of here.
Let's go.
He's done.
I swear.
He's done.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord.
Kevin escorts John out.
Oh, that makes my life so much easier.
Bobby grins.
And later today.
You wanted to go. There was no reason why you couldn't. That's why you drive a motorcycle, because you can get into tight places and you can go. But you look like an intelligent young woman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Don't take chances. That was a chance. It could have been a lot worse.
A woman nods. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Bobby.
Bobby Gonzalez claims his neighbor, John Gilbert, hit his classic pickup truck. John is countersuing for car damage and harassment.
By the way, both the defendant and his wife have a counterclaim. Their counterclaim is for damages to their car and for harassment. Well, since neither one of them can keep control of themselves, the counterclaim is dismissed. I'm looking at this truck, Mr. Gonzalez. When did you purchase it, sir, and from whom?
In October of last year, I purchased it online.
Do you have the bill of sale from when you purchased it?
I don't have the bill of sale, but on the paperwork, I have the post on Facebook on how much I paid for it. It was for $8,000.
Okay.
I also have an appraisal on there as well.
I see the appraisal, but I don't have what it's going to take to fix the spot where he damaged the car. He damaged the car in this whole side end.
Yes.
I mean, he's not going to give you a classic car.
Well, I know.
That's not going to happen.
I know. I know
Okay.
that.
That's not going to happen. And certainly, you do understand that I'm not awarding you anything close even though they're two obnoxious people, anything close to $10,000. You do understand that, Mr. Gonzalez. You're going to have to get this car fixed right now. I'm looking. Where is a invoice for either the work you had done or an estimate to fix that part of the car that he injured?
I cannot give that to you because
then I don't have it,
the
sir.
vehicle is a classic. It's very hard to find that type of vehicle.
Well, then what you're asking me is to guess, sir.
Well, I can give you the rates as far as how much
You can't give me anything.
Okay.
You have to take the car in to somebody who deals with classic cars. This is a 70-year-old truck, and it's certainly beat up. You had it covered for a long time. It shouldn't have been on the street. You do know that. And I assume that since it's not driven, you didn't have it insured.
Well, I took it out for Halloween, just for the kids.
Well, I mean, where do you suggest that I conjure up a figure of $10,000 when you have a car that's a year old that has never been driven, that you take out and it's a Halloween ornament? So let me explain this to you. I have to guess at a figure. I would be prepared to award you $2,000 to fix your car because I did see that it had to be damaged as a result of the damage to the defendant's car. If you feel as if you would fare better in your local small claims court where this case came from, because I have dismissed their counterclaim, I will dismiss your case without prejudice and you can take it back to the lower court. Take your choice.
I'll go ahead and take it from you. I know I'm not going to get anything from them.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Counterclaims dismissed. Fix your car. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I didn't agree on the price, but with them kind of people, I'm not going to get my money back. It's time to get it repaired.
I think you have to be a certain kind of person to not take any accountability when you hit a stationary object. I'll admit, I think that it was probably a 90%, 10% split, 10% plaintiff's fault for parking on the street. I looked up the section code in Texas and did find that if you leave a car longer than 5 days on the street, you're in violation of a code. But like you tried to explain to the very hot-headed defendant, that's a finable offense. That doesn't mean you can ram into it with your vehicle and not be at fault. I just don't know how you take zero accountability after hitting a stationary object.
I don't know either, but that's, I think, a problem with a country that's grown up in the last 50 years, that it's never your fault.
Yep.
It's always somebody else. It's the state's fault. It's the city's fault. It's somebody else's fault. And it's sad because I know that there was lots of acrimony between the two of them without it. But they were hotheads. Is this the first time you ever saw me send somebody out?
A long time.
Yeah,
long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But when they're clearly not getting the message and they're being hostile, that's not the proper way to come to court.
No.
Especially when you're in the wrong.
All right, but they have to live near each other. I hope that they sort of get it together.
Just keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Case 2067, Garcia versus Taryn. All parties, please step forward.
Amari Garcia is suing fellow motorist April Taryn for damages from a motorcycle accident.
This is a case that's about an automobile-motorcycle collision. Each one of you claims that the other is responsible for the collision. Ms. Garcia, you were riding the motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were in your car?
Yes.
Okay. And this happened on what date?
March 21st, 2022, around 3 p.m.
In what state?
California.
In the state of California, are you required to have insurance on a motorcycle?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just liability?
Liability if it's paid for in full, correct. Yes, Your Honor.
And were you insured on that date?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you were driving a car?
Yes.
And was your car insured on March 21st, 2022?
Not at the time.
So the answer is no?
No.
Did you have a valid driver's license on March 21st, 2022?
Yes.
From what state?
California.
What kind of car were you driving?
A 2011 Nissan Sentra.
Was it a new car for you, or did you have it for a while?
It's a new car. I purchased it 3 weeks prior to the incident.
And if you bought it 3 weeks before, how come you didn't have liability insurance?
I was looking for insurance, and plus, at the time, I hadn't received my paperwork. It was still in the other person's name at the used car dealership that I bought it from.
Your Honor.
I hadn't.
You know you're not supposed to be driving a car, Miss Taryn, without insurance.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. You wanted to say something?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I have proof that April Taryn purchased her vehicle February 8th, 2022. She drove uninsured for 41 days, and it was not from a lot. It was from someone off the street. I have the proof for that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes.
Amari hands a document to Kevin. who brings it to Judy.
For $2,050.
Judy reviews it.
Well, this car that you registered, the selling price was $2,050, according to this.
No, it wasn't. And
Well, I'm going to show you vehicle and transfer law. This is 2011 Sentra, and it was signed, but it's LLC. That's his company.
Okay.
So it wasn't off the street, but it said the selling price was $2,000. That's what this says.
I don't have my paperwork in my car.
Want to show this to her?
Kevin brings the document to April.
I just want to get some basic facts first, and then I'm going to go to the incident.
But that's to, and
No, the person, the seller.
and you know, I have my paperwork in my car.
Yeah, but you understand that that's
I understand what
it's,
you're saying because it's right there.
That's
Yes.
okay. We have a diagram. This happened on March 21st, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You had no insurance, and you were traveling in the bike lane.
No, that is not true. I shared the lane of the car on the right. I would never go into a bike lane. That is disrespectful to the road and riders.
Just a second. Are you allowed to share a lane with a car and a motorcycle?
That is your right, yes.
I know Foothill. Is that where you were?
Yes, Your Honor.
And at a certain time during the day, Foothill becomes very trafficked.
Yes.
And the cars sometimes get stopped because there's a light, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go over to there, Miss Garcia, and show me, please.
Amari approaches the diagram of the accident.
Where you were positioned before you say that you were traveling in the same lane as a car.
Your Honor, I was directly behind this car.
Okay.
Directly behind.
You were
the car.
directly behind that car.
Yes.
And that car was stopped.
They were slowing to a stop.
No, they were stopped because they had to have been stopped because that's why you went around him.
They were slowing to a stop. By the time I got around here, they were stopped. I didn't want to veer into here. I was slowing down. I was around 25 miles per hour. This lane at the time was too close. So I shared this lane on this side.
Miss Garcia, I got it, Miss Garcia. You want me to appreciate the fact that you wanted to get around the stopped car and you wanted to continue to go straight, correct? You weren't turning. You wanted to go straight.
I was going straight, correct.
And so you want me to picture in this tiny mind of mine that instead of going into a perfectly clear bike lane, you inched your way at 25 miles an hour in the same lane as a stopped car.
Yes.
But
this diagram.
You know, I find that hard to believe, Miss Garcia.
Your
I
Honor,
really find that hard to believe. You may be in the right with regard to this, but I find it hard to believe.
The
because
roads are very wide. I have the actual police photo document of that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Amari returns to the plaintiff's table, then produces a document and hands it to Kevin.
Right here.
And I'd like to see the police report as well. Is there a police
It's
report?
attached to this.
Fine.
Kevin brings the document to Judy.
Because as you were traveling straight, the defendant was making a left turn. She was making a left turn because the two cars there were stopped, and those were the only two traffic lanes there. Now, I don't know whether she could see whether it's a motorcycle or a bicycle traveling in the bike lane, but what happened was she was making a left turn. According to this, you went into her passenger side. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Caption, coming up.
So where is the motorcycle now?
I no longer have it. The towing company, they sold it.
What are you driving around in now?
1995 Chevy Baville.
Atta girl!
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Amari and April.
Amari Garcia is accusing fellow motorist April Taryn of damaging her motorcycle. April claims Amari was illegally driving in the bike lane.
Judy reviews a document.
Who was in the car with you, Miss Taryn?
My son and his girlfriend.
One of them had an injury.
Yes. My son's girlfriend, she was in the driver's passenger side. And while I was turning into the lane, I just felt a crash and saw glass going into my car, and then she was cut.
Okay, and you had an injury to your knee.
Yes, I have several injuries. And I have photos as well.
You understand, Miss Taryn, that the police interviewed witnesses. The witnesses were in the stopped cars.
Yes.
And at the end of all of their interviewing process, they determined that you were the cause of the collision. That's what it says.
And I don't...
It says that you caused the collision by violating Vehicle and Traffic Law 218001, failure to yield when making a left turn. I determined the cause based upon the parties involved and the physical evidence. That's what the police determined. Okay, well, then that's an easy, based upon the police report, because each of you are going to tell two different stories about what happened that day. Police were there, they looked at the physical evidence, they looked at the injuries, they looked at the damage to the roadway, they interviewed independent witnesses, and that was their determination.
I understand, Judge, but the police report had some inconsistencies where, like, she was driving in the bicycle lane, which is against the law. And what I was doing, I was making the left turn, as you know. And these two front cars, which one of them was a witness.
Yes, that car paused to let you make a left turn.
Yes, both lanes. And I was.
No, you said both lanes.
Both lanes paused.
Well, that's what you say.
Yes.
That's what you say. That's not what this says.
See, but they both did. And as I was
But I'm just telling you.
No, I know. And
Yeah,
that's
but
why
I'm just telling you. That's not what this is. That's what you say. There was nothing that prevented those two cars from going.
Exactly.
There wasn't a traffic light. There wasn't a stoplight at that spot.
Yes.
And there was heavy traffic.
Yes.
So it's your responsibility to make sure if you're making a left turn that you have to yield to all oncoming traffic. So the fact that you didn't see her is really not relevant. And as long as you understand that this police report supports Miss Garcia's claim that you caused this accident by making a left turn when you shouldn't have been making a left turn, that's what this says. And that, you know, at the end of the day, it's an accident. That's why it's not called an on purpose. It's called an accident. Neither one of you anticipated it. As far as I'm concerned, Ms. Garcia, you're entitled to be compensated, but I'm going to suggest this to you. If I'm driving a motorcycle, which I would never do, just for me, I think it's wacky. I think there are enough crazy people driving around that I like about 2,000 pounds of steel around me, so that if somebody who is not paying attention and there's an accident, I like to be safe. My first car when I was 17, all my friends were getting these cute little cars, you know, that were convertibles, and my father bought me a 15-year-old blue and white Cadillac sedan. It was so embarrassing to drive around in that car. It was a boat. Oh, come on. Everybody else is getting these cute little Corvettes, even if they're used ones. And my father, who loved me a lot, said to me, sweetheart, if you get into the accident, I want you to come out unscathed. And this ensures that you got a shot if you get into an accident. And I feel better. So I'm just telling you, if you're going to drive a motorcycle, don't take shortcuts. I know this place on Foothill, and I know what happened here. You know, you wanted to go, there was no reason why you couldn't. That's why you drive a motorcycle, because you can get into tight places. But you look like an intelligent young woman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Don't take chances. That was a chance. It could have been a lot worse. What was the damage to your motorcycle?
I have pictures. Would you like to see them, Your Honor?
I would.
I did look it up. Lane splitting motorcycles is legal in California, based on the California Highway Patrol.
Amari hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
Okay, I know. I see the pictures. So where is the motorcycle now?
I no longer have it. The towing company, they sold it. They sold it for $70 they claim, and I got hit with collections afterwards. I have the bill for that if you'd like to see that.
How much did you pay for it?
$6,407.
Do you have the bill?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
For my motorcycle, what I paid for, correct?
Yes, what you paid for it.
Amari hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
What are you driving around in now?
A 1995 Chevy Baville.
Atta girl! Atta girl. Okay. I'm giving you the value of the motorcycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Which is $6,407. I'm not splitting whose fault this was, actually, but I'm not awarding you any punitive damages for her. She had injuries in her car. You were slightly injured, but both of you seem fine now. I don't think that you were careful enough when you were going straight and around that car that was stopped. But the defendant didn't have insurance, and she was cited by the police for violation of a traffic law. So I'm giving you the cost of your motorcycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
So I actually ended up, after the car had made impact with me, the bike went that way, I went up into the air.
It was really frightening.
I hit the ground, I hit on my elbow.
I've never experienced that before.
I was really scared. I thought, like, oh, this is it, my legs are out.
And like I said, I was being cautious and
thankfully I wasn't.
But it ended up in that kind of situation.
Definitely more safely as far as better gear and, you know, like she said, don't take a shortcut or anything of that sort.
Sarah.
So I looked up lane splitting, and in California, it's one of the few states that allows it for motorcyclists. It does say inexperienced riders shouldn't attempt it because, like we see, it's very easy to get hit or for someone not to see you if you're splitting between lanes, but it is legal, so she wasn't in the wrong by lane splitting, but I think it was a sticky situation. You're behind a car, someone's turning.
What does it say if you're injured?
It does say on the Highway Patrol website that you're splitting at your own risk, so any injuries that happen are at your own risk.
So they say if you are lane splitting, it's not illegal, but if you have injuries as a result of an accident, if you're lane splitting, you're responsible for your own injuries.
It doesn't say it in a legal term that I could really stick to, but it says it's risky. We're acknowledging that it's risky. You have to assume the risk of lane splitting if that's what you choose to do.
Interesting.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
But you would continue to pay the rent?
Correct. I found out that the rent hadn't been paid, so that was a surprise.
He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You lived there alone? And he was paying the rent?
Yes.
This is Judy just
suing his former friend, Nadine Drury, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy enters.
Be seated, everybody.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Kevin?
Case number 2015, Moss versus Jury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moss, prior to leasing an apartment with the defendant, had you known each other?
Sort of.
Tell me a sort of.
So we met one time about a year prior. We have mutual friends, one of which had asked me to get ordained to marry her and her husband. So I flew in town to do that, and Nadine was there at their house when I flew in. We saw each other for a few minutes, and that's actually the only time we've ever met in person.
And there came a time when you were looking for an apartment where?
I was looking for an apartment in the Salt Lake area.
And where had you been living?
In Seattle.
And where were you living, Miss Drury?
In Salt Lake City.
You were looking to move?
Yes.
So other than that one-time meeting when you were officiating at a mutual friend's wedding you hadn't met before, but somebody suggested that you were looking for an apartment, you were looking for a new apartment, and perhaps you could rent an apartment together.
Yes, that's
fair statement?
In fact.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in what month and year did that happen?
It would have been in October of 2020 that this arrangement sort of came to be like, hey, maybe you should see if Nadine...
Okay, but you did, in fact, sign a lease together. Who found the apartment?
Nadine did.
You did. Prior to signing the lease, Mr. Moss, had you seen the apartment?
No.
No is the answer. Did you ever see the apartment, other than videos or photographs of it?
No, I never saw
Prior to signing the lease?
Correct.
Also correct?
Correct.
On what date was the lease signed?
On the 7th of November of 2020.
The rent on the apartment was how much?
It was $585 a month each.
$1,170, Your Honor.
So $585 per month each. You both signed it on the same day. Did you move in?
I did.
On what date?
November 8th.
And you were still in Seattle?
Correct.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
Okay. And that is also correct?
Correct.
Because for whatever reason you decided to stay in Seattle?
Correct.
Is that work-related or socially?
Social.
And then you contacted her and told her that you weren't intending to move in?
Correct.
But that you would continue to pay your half of the rent. That also correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you were making a direct deposit to the account to pay the rent?
Yeah, it was an automatic payment from my account to the rental.
To the rental office?
Yes, to the rental office.
Then you came to find that Miss Drury had stopped paying her portion of the rent. When did you stop making payments on your portion of the rent?
In January.
So you paid either full or partial for November because you moved in on the 8th, and you paid December's rent.
Correct.
And you stopped paying rent in January. Why?
I lost my job in December of 2020.
So I'm going to outline now what this case is about.
Yes.
Mr. Moss continued paying his half of the rent until you found a roommate.
Correct.
And you found a roommate when?
I believe I found him in February, and he moved in the month of March and started paying his half of the rent.
So you didn't pay rent January or February,
Correct.
2 months.
Correct.
And you had no work.
Correct.
When you found out that the rent wasn't being paid, according to you, in order to not impact your credit, you spoke to her. She said, I don't have a job. You said, I can help you out. I'll send you money. Is that generally what happened? Then I'll get into
that's generally what happened, but there is a little more detail to it.
I'm going to let you get to the details.
All right.
And you want that money back. The money that you advanced her in her time of need, which was how much in total?
The total is $3,360. She did at some point pay me $300 back, so the amount I am seeking is $3,060.
Okay. Are those figures accurate?
Yes.
And he gave you that money, not because you were good friends, because you were a relative. He had met you one time.
Right.
And he had, in fact, said to you, I will continue to pay my rent, even though I know you from hole in the wall. I will continue because I signed this lease until you find someone to get me off the lease.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your defense, it seems to me, to this action is that he was really trying to scam the government by depleting his bank account so he could collect food stamps or whatever.
No.
And as a result of that, because he wasn't being honest with the government, you shouldn't have to pay him back. I just want to know if that's what I'm reading correctly.
There was never an agreement
No.
payback.
That's a different story. I'm going to read this over because, you know, I'm getting elderly, and I may not have recalled exactly what you said in your answer.
Judy looks down at a document.
It doesn't say that here. It says several months later, it's after you found a new roommate, Emmett randomly reached out to me saying that I owed him money and demanded that I take out a personal loan to pay it. I refused. Emmett has some nerve. Not only did he break the lease, well, what difference does that make to you? He still was paying his half of the rent. So now you had a whole apartment by yourself and he was paying the rent, right? So why does he have some nerve? But he took advantage of me and used me to scam the system. So that's what I understand your defense is.
It is. I have video evidence, Your Honor.
Video of what?
Of Emmett.
Of Emmett what?
Of Emmett explaining why he was trying to get on assistance and how he was like, it's fine for you to pay rent with this money because I'm trying to empty my bank account so that I can get on food stamps.
It is true.
Okay, just a second. Just a second. Let's say that's true. He's going. I'm just trying to. Shh.
Caption coming up.
I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars.
No, just one. I personally didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, you know, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Emmett and Nadine.
Emmett Moss claims his former friend, Nadine Drury, owes for unpaid loans. Nadine says Emmett broke the lease they were both on.
I'm just trying to get your mindset. You know, I hate people who scam the system. But you got this money from him. And your defense is that he was trying to scam somebody else, so you shouldn't really have to pay him back, even though it was his money.
It was his money.
It was his money that he took out of his bank and gave to you.
Right.
For no reason.
That I never agreed to pay back for a lease that he was legally on. He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You mean so you get to live there free?
No,
Well, just a second. So you get to live there free. If he paid for it for the months that you didn't, you got to live there free. He wasn't even living there. It's not as if he was living there and you didn't get to live there free. You lived there alone. And he was paying the rent.
Yes.
Well, why do you think you're not responsible for that once you get back on your feet?
We never talked about a repayment.
No.
That's not.
Okay. Now.
We definitely talked about repayment.
Now, I want you to explain to me and be very careful, because, you know, I've been in this system a very long time. So I know about social services, and I know about the system, and I know about welfare, and I know about food stamps. I know all about that. So you contact her.
Yes.
And she tells you she lost her job.
Yes.
Let's pick it up from there.
Okay. So I found out through the payment portal that she hadn't paid rent.
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay.
We're
I
past
contacted
that.
her about that. Well, there was.
Don't look up.
Apologies. I sent her money that night.
No. You contacted the portal, and then you had to have had a conversation with her.
Right.
you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Let's start with you contacted the portal and you found out she hadn't been paying her rent. That was in January.
Correct. January the 2nd.
And January she hadn't paid rent and you called her and she said to you?
She said to me that she didn't have money to pay, which I was aware of because she had previously told me that she I was aware that she had lost her job.
Just a second, how did you become aware that she had lost her job?
Because we were friendly with each other. We were talking several times a week via Facebook Messenger.
Fine. You knew that she lost her job.
Yes.
And I assume you knew if she lost her job and you were speaking several times a week. Let's be very careful. This isn't just calling the pay portal and finding out that this stranger who you met once wasn't paying her rent. You were speaking and you knew that she had fallen on difficult times. And?
I did. I didn't.
Don't go up here, right here.
I didn't know that she wasn't going to pay rent on time.
No, just a second. You didn't know what?
On the 2nd was when I found out that the rent hadn't been paid.
On the 2nd of January?
The 2nd of January.
Just look at me. On the 2nd of January, you found out the rent hadn't been paid. What did you do?
So I called Nadine to ask about it, and you told me that she didn't have the money. And so I said, okay, I have these extra funds because I, at the time, was also unemployed. I had been taking payments, unemployment payments, and then the COVID payments.
And what?
The extra payments for COVID on top of unemployment, because this was 2020.
Welcome to Inflation 101.
Right. So all of my payments had been late and had come in a lump sum. So that is why I had extra
So your
money.
unemployment and your COVID funds came in one lump sum.
Correct.
And I want you to think very, very carefully. And you're living where, sir?
Seattle.
With whom?
At the time, I was seeking a roommate.
No. Where were you living?
So I was living in Seattle.
In Seattle with whom?
No one.
By yourself?
Yes. Technically, someone was paying rent because they had moved out.
No, you're looking up at the sky.
Sorry.
Don't look up at the sky. So somebody had moved out of their apartment.
Yeah.
Which had been prepaid in rent.
Yes.
So you were living there rent-free.
No. This was my apartment that I lived in for 3 years. And someone else had moved in and then moved out. And they broke the lease, not me.
They broke the lease, but they paid the rent.
Correct. They paid their half. I was still paying my half of rent. I never defaulted on my rental payments in Seattle ever.
And they were still paying theirs?
Yes. So we were both each paying our respective parts of the rent. And I was paying rent in Utah.
And you were paying rent where the defendant was living. Okay. So I want you to think very carefully. When you got your unemployment and your extra COVID money in a lump sum, how much did you get?
What?
No, don't look over there. You know exactly how much you got.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. Just give me a number.
$10,000.
Well, that should last you for a little bit. And you got $10,000 on what date?
I don't remember.
Month?
It would have been in November.
Okay, so now she's run out of funds, and you say to her, go ahead.
By the time we get to January, I do not have $10,000. I have much less because of other circumstances.
Like what?
Like needing to purchase a car for the girlfriend that I stayed in town.
A car?
Yes.
What else?
Rental payments. That's it. Nothing.
You bought your girlfriend a car?
I did. Her car that she had was a beater, and it was unsafe.
I don't care. What about your car?
I did use a down. I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars?
No, just one. I didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story. You're living by yourself with a roommate. The roommate moves out. Your girlfriend had a terrible car. You don't live with the girlfriend.
Don't.
But you bought her a car. You didn't have a car, but you bought her a car.
I had, if we need to back it up, I had given up my car in a bankruptcy earlier in the year because of...
In whose bankruptcy?
My bankruptcy.
Your bankruptcy.
That is why I didn't have a car.
It's getting better all the time. Okie dokie.
It was an interesting year.
That doesn't mean you don't owe money. It just means I have to know the characters that I'm dealing with.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
Caption, coming up.
while you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Emmett and Nadine.
Emmett Moss has accused his former friend, Nadine Drury, of refusing to pay back loans. Nadine claims she was used by Emmett to scam the government.
So now you've got much less money from the $10,000. You bought your girlfriend a car, you had to pay her rent, you paid your own rent, you had other things from bankruptcies that you had before, so you have a little bit of money left in the bank.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
don't look over there, right here. No, look,
that evening of the 2nd, I paid Nadine a total of $710, enough to cover the rent of $585, any fees it would cost her to go and withdraw that money from the bank, and she also asked for extra money for groceries.
Just a second. You acknowledge a $3,000 amount of money that he gave you. Am I right?
Yes.
Or you say that that's correct.
That includes the money that he's saying that he spent on rent, that he gave me for rent, and he's also asking for his deposit.
I am asking for my deposit.
The deposit for the apartment back.
Okay, well, he's entitled to that. You have a new roommate who I'm sure you got a deposit from.
She chose to not.
And if you didn't?
Collect a deposit from
What?
the roommate.
Well, that's her problem because
I
she's
agree.
going to get the deposit back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's reasonable. She's going to get the deposit back when she leaves. When you leave, if you leave the place in good condition, he was never living there, so if you don't leave it in good condition, then it's on you. I want to know about this video that she wants me to look at, where you tell her some sort of a scheme you have to get more money from the government.
It wasn't a scheme.
Why don't you tell me about it? So far, we got $10,000 that was supposed to last you for 6 months, and you blew it on a car for your girlfriend. And so you may not call it a scheme. I want you to tell me why you had to have a zero bank account.
I didn't have to have a zero bank account.
A more limited access to money. What were you applying for, sir?
So
not so up here, so here.
Okay. I was applying for a program to go into the trades. So it was like a work-study program, like electrician, plumber, that sort of thing. And again, I didn't have a job, and unemployment had completely stopped. And as far
How many years did you collect unemployment?
It was less than 1 year.
How many years had you worked?
How many years have I worked?
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 16. So
Well,
it'd
I'm
been
surprised
14.
the unemployment totally ran out because they kept extending unemployment. People were on unemployment for years during COVID.
When they cut me off December of 2020, they did not reestablish my claim. I kept applying and it was denied. So I don't know why, but it was.
What kind of work do you do now?
I work for customer service.
Okay. And the trade school that you wanted to go to was to prepare you for what?
To be an electrician was what I wanted to do.
An electrician?
Yes.
And was this an online program?
No, this was in person.
Where?
It was in Seattle.
And how much did they give you to go to that program?
They didn't give me money to go to the program, but the program was free of charge.
Okay. So the government paid the tuition?
I believe that
Well, somebody pays the tuition, sir.
Yeah.
So the government pays the tuition. And while you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, how were you supporting yourself?
So...
Were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes,
Yes.
I applied for food stamps and got food stamps. That is what I got.
So you applied for some sort of assistance while you were going to this trade school, which you're not practicing now, and you're not an electrician.
That is correct.
And in order to apply for food stamps, you have to have a certain amount of money is the maximum you can have in your bank.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's the fraud you're talking about. That's why he gave you the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean,
just a second.
I also gave her the money because she was going to need the money for rent. Like, it was one of those situations where it was mutually beneficial for me to give her the money, but it wasn't.
You're looking up at the sky. I understand what happened.
So I wasn't going to have any way to support myself. I needed something to. The $2,000 was going to cover the rent for my place and my place in Seattle and my place in Utah, and then I wasn't going to have anything left.
I understand. that it became mutually beneficial for you to advance her the money
Yes.
so that your bank account would have less in it so that you could receive assistance and also get free tuition at a trade school that you didn't use.
My intention was to use it, and I changed my decision later.
Do you think the trade school charged the government once you enrolled in it?
Yes.
Yes, of course they did. And you know how much the tuition was in the trade school? Yes, you have to know. No, it was free to you, but it wasn't free to the government.
Right,
The government
yeah,
pays
$1,500 was what I was made to understand.
baloney. You people really somehow deserve each other, but you owe him $3,000. Madam, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm a little bit shocked to be made out as a government scammer.
I mean, I lost my job and I wasn't able, and he bailed on the lease that he signed.
Because that wasn't ever my intentions.
I mean, I was alone. I had lost my job. I just didn't have any support.
Definitely careful about getting money from the government.
Just glad it's done. Glad I don't ever have to see him again.
Haven't had to do that since this whole situation, and I intend to keep it that way.
Sarah and Judy.
You know, it's so unfortunate because the plaintiff looked like an intelligent enough man, able-bodied, seemingly, and he spent a lot of time, effort, brain power into bankruptcy proceedings, trade schools that would be paid for by the government, applying for food stamps, knowing what the threshold for food stamps is so that he had to get rid of a certain amount of money. That seems like a lot of time and effort that could have been better spent gaining legitimate employment or skills at a trade school legitimately. And it's just unfortunate that some people decide to take the path that I view as more difficult in searching for ways to get free money.
Really unsatisfying.
Yeah.
If you think about it, unsatisfying.
Maybe going forward, he'll take a different path.
Maybe. I doubt it.
Title: Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
I got kicked in the head by a horse. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit.
She had horses that were unsound. Her young horses were jumping and running in paddocks with huge boulders. It was unsettling. You understand what I'm saying.
This is Judy Justice.
Diane Dippenbrock is suing horse breeder Jessica Austin for the deposit on a horse.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2136, Dippenbrock versus Austin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Diane.
Dippenbrock.
Yes.
You bought a foal, which is a baby horse, in utero, which means that the horse had not yet had this foal, but you wanted to place an order for it, and Miss Austin is in that business.
Correct.
You entered into a contract. By the way, what is the gestation period of a horse?
Roughly 340 days.
And at what period in the horse's pregnancy did you enter into this contract with the plaintiff?
Roughly 3.5 months into the gestation.
Okay. Did you have a written contract?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at it because this is a contract action. And it is your claim that you made a substantial deposit, over $3,000, for the horse, that when the horse was born, it did not meet the specifications of this contract. You wanted your money back. The defendant says that's not true, that the horse did meet all of the requirements of this contract. The one specifically that you're referring to is something in this contract, which I will read, I assume, that says that the horse must be, once born, insurable within the first 2 days or 48 hours of its birth, and that this horse was not insurable within 48 hours, and therefore you decided to terminate the contract. That's your position, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I request-
And it's your position that the horse was in fact insurable. You say you can prove that because you did in fact get insurance on the horse within 48 hours of the horse's birth? And
so...
No, don't. Your
Part of that
position is
statement
that you met the conditions of the contract.
Yes.
Okay.
Judy reviews the contract.
Okay. The deposit for 25% of the purchase price, the seller agrees to hold the foal off market exclusively for the buyer until the foal reaches 48 hours old and is deemed insurable. Well, does that mean that foal is taken from the mother and transferred?
No.
So the foal stays with the mother until it's how old?
I choose to wean at 6 months because they seem to be better adjusted if you wait until that period.
Okay, and it's not that you can't get insurance, it's that a live, healthy foal is defined as a foal that is deemed insurable at 48 hours old. And if the mare fails to produce a live, healthy foal, then the buyer may request a refund of the deposit or a credit towards another purchase. Okay, so the foal was born when?
June 9th, 2022 at roughly 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, your case, your proof.
Okay, so I had to find out the foal was born through Facebook.
Okay, whatever.
Never notified me, and then I went to see the foal when it was a day old on Thursday.
1 day old?
I mean, well, not even 12 hours old, basically.
Okay, so it was not a day old, it was 12 hours old.
Correct, I'm sorry, 12 hours old. June
Okay.
10th, she told me the vet would be out at 9:30 in the morning to do the routine foal exam, and I had requested to be notified of the results.
Just tell me about the contract. The foal is born alive and is how old now?
She turned 5 months old on the 9th of this month.
Have pictures of her?
I do.
I'd like to see.
Jessica grins, then hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews photos of a dark-colored baby horse.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
Have you seen her?
I have.
Recently?
No.
Would you show the plaintiff these photographs?
Kevin brings the photos to Diane, who reviews them.
Looks perfectly healthy to me.
I couldn't get insurance
Just
when
a
she
second,
was...
Just a second. Looks perfectly healthy to me. And I'm not an expert, but you would say that that horse looks pretty healthy.
Yes.
Okay, great. So now the horse is 12 hours old, and tell me the rest.
So at 48 hours old, I submitted the vet report to 8 insurance companies, and they all declined to insure the animal.
Just a second. You submitted what report? Let me see the report, and let me see what you received.
Okay.
Did you furnish her with a report within 48 hours?
I furnished her with what the vet gave me. He did the vet exam at 24 hours old, but he had to draw blood and send it to a lab.
Okay.
And wait for that to
let
come
me.
back.
This first thing is dated June 12th, 2022. And this laboratory is sending the report to you, and it seems that they put the horse on a course of antibiotics initially for 1 day because something came back high. But it says, I do not believe all foals should automatically get antibiotics. However, I stand by our decision to treat what turned out to be a completely normal and healthy foal. We can pull follow-up labs to be sure, but her behavior since the blood sample backs up the lab results. Her behavior since the blood samples, what does that mean?
So for a foal to be considered doing well behaviorally, it needs...
What are you a doctor of, first tell me?
People. Internal medicine.
Okay.
For people.
Okay.
I brought an
You're the
expert witness veterinarian.
Okay. So now I have these test results, which I don't understand, and I'd like to see your reports from the insurance companies.
Diane hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
How long was the foal on antibiotics?
She received 2 doses, one the day the vet came out, and then one the following morning before he got the blood test results back.
Which, when the blood test results came back,
They were normal.
They were normal.
Yes. And he said, don't give any more antibiotics. She does not need them.
And this report that you have from one insurance company, or from actually all of them, say underwriters have declined to provide coverage at this time and will reassess when the foal is off antibiotics. Well, the foal was off antibiotics within 2 days.
Mrs. Austin told me she was on antibiotics for 3 days, actually. And then
Well, either 2 or 3 days, but then the test results came back normal.
The insurance companies, each of them will wait a certain amount of days. So that particular one wanted to wait 7 days to reassess after the foal had been off antibiotics. A few of the companies were 30 days, and I think one was 14 days.
Well, but that doesn't matter. All you need is one.
I was taking a risk with having an animal that's uninsured, and I wasn't ready to.
This is problematic for me, because if I put a deposit down on something that I really wanted, and within 2 or 3 days, any question with regard to whether or not the animal was insurable or healthy, if my intention was to honor the contract, I would say, let's see if the results are normal or abnormal. Now, the results came back that the foal was perfectly healthy. So unless you had, in my view, something preconceived that you wanted out of this deal for some reason other than insurability, it's your horse.
I signed the contract based on the fact that she could be insured. The year before, I purchased another in utero, and that foal was insured at 24 hours old, and with the same type of contract. I wasn't going to enter
That's
into
all
the
right,
contract.
but that's all, you understand what I'm saying to you. You understand what I'm saying to you, because my problem is, after I made the deposit, according to you, some things came to my attention that gave me anxiety. This is before the foal was even born. I learned about several of plaintiff's horses that had to be put down. She had horses that were unsound, lame, and missing eyes. Her young horses were jumping and running in paddocks with huge boulders. I also found out that she tried to sell the mare that was pregnant with my foal to a friend of mine. It was unsettling.
Correct.
Right. So I'm trying to just put this in chronological order for myself to understand whether there was a true breach of this contract.
Caption coming up.
You have a counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit.
What does that have to do with what you want?
Later.
So this is a picture of the car before he painted it?
No, ma'am, that's after.
Oh, it doesn't look bad.
From afar.
Listen, when you're born in 1964, everything looks better from afar.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Diane and Jessica.
Diane Deppenbrock is suing horse breeder Jessica Austin for the deposit on a horse. Jessica is countersuing for breach of contract.
The foal is born on the 9th of June.
Correct.
Was given a dose of antibiotics on the 10th of June.
Correct.
Because they were suspicious of something before the blood was drawn.
Correct.
Given another dose of antibiotics in the morning of the 11th.
Correct.
The blood results come back on the 12th, which indicates that the horse was totally normal, and you advised her, correct? That the
I
test
immediately
result...
forwarded the email to her, correct.
Okay, now the foal is 50 hours old, and you're told that the foal is totally healthy. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with your position that there was a material breach of this contract. I think that a perfectly healthy horse was born, and it was within a reasonable period of time, may not have been 48 hours, but if they were being very cautious in starting the course of antibiotics. You're the vet. Stand up and tell me if I'm not seeing something. The vet who saw the horse, was that you?
It was not.
Okay. Evidently decided that to be very cautious, they would await the blood test result on the horse, on the baby, and start a course of antibiotics that could be stopped if the blood tests came back normal, which they did within a day. Oh, I don't think that there's been a material breach of this contract by the defendants. I think that you're obligated. If she wanted specific performance, that's fine, but you're not entitled to your deposit back.
I have an email from the insurance company from the 21st when she finally told me that the foal was insured.
Just a second.
I can't take that risk for 2 weeks on an animal.
No.
Get insurance on.
No. But your problem is, it wasn't 2 weeks. Your problem was, it was less than a day within adding it on to that 48-hour period. And I have to determine whether that was a material breach of the contract. Certainly, if the lab results came back that show that there was any deficiency in the horse, I would say absolutely you're entitled to your deposit back. But they did not. They came back and they said that a vet wanted to be very cautious, but the vet turned out to be wrong.
My contract didn't state anything about a vet.
I'm telling you, I don't find that one day was a material breach of the contract, because if you had then on the third day sent the normal blood test results out to the same insurance company, the insurance company would have found that the horse was insurable.
They wouldn't, because they wanted to wait 7 days until the horse was off antibiotics.
Then you wait 7 days. That's still not a material breach. She's not asking you for the rest of the money.
So if something would have happened in those 2 weeks, I would have been out $9,000.
That is not
just a second.
accurate.
You were not. You weren't going to take the horse until the horse was 6 months old.
I wasn't going to take the horse if it wasn't if it couldn't be insured.
Well, it could be insured. It turned out that the vet was cautious and you were wrong. And I believe that you had already made a decision in your mind.
I had not already made a decision.
Well, I find that there's not a material breach. You don't get your deposit back. Now, horse is yours. You have the counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
$1,500 for my lawyer costs and another $100 to file the counterclaim.
For your lawyer's costs for what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit that they're working.
What does that have to do with what you want? I mean, I'm sorry about that, but what does
I
that
obtained a lawyer to represent me in court because I didn't know if I would be capable of representing myself.
Oh, well, but you are perfectly capable of representing yourself. You don't get your deposit back. So now you have a perfectly healthy horse that you can sell and hopefully sell for the same amount that you sold it to the plaintiff for and pay your attorney's fees. Do you understand? Because she lost her deposit. I don't think that there was a material breach of a contract with an extra 1 day to get normal lab results back. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Jessica.
As the judge read from the contract, as the seller, I assumed all risk on the foal until she was 6 months old.
Put a lot of money to make an investment in, and you want to make sure that your assets are covered and that the horse can be properly taken care of if something does come up.
Therefore, the argument that the buyer would lose anything if something happens to the foal is inaccurate.
I'm really happy with the 2 horses that I have, and I'll continue to stick with the ethical breeders that I know.
And the insurance that we obtained was based on the exam at 24 hours old. Therefore, we have proven that we upheld the contract.
So one interesting thing about that case is, as I was looking at the calendar of what day the horse was born and when the vet came out first and when the results came back, the horse was born on a Friday, and then the vet came out Saturday, and I was surprised that any lab sent labs back on a Sunday. So in a business that's so dependent on something you can't control when the horse is going to give birth, why would the defendant put in her own contract a 48-hour, such a tight window for insurability for the horse? Maybe it's standard practice. I don't know standard practices for horses or anything like that. But
you're right, it's a tight window. And my guess is, although I could have asked the question, probably standard in that industry, I'm not sure. But it's interesting to note that in contract law, unless time is of the essence, there has to be some sort of material breach. And, you know, in this case, if the defendant had not had a vet come out and look at the horse for a week, well, that's a different story. She had a vet come out immediately. The vet was super cautious. Vet turned out to be ultimately, thankfully, mistaken that there was nothing wrong with the horse. Got a clean blood test, but the plaintiff had already determined that she had buyer's remorse with regard to this deal. There was another agenda there because the horse looked beautiful as it turned out, 5 months old, and a beautiful animal, and it was perfectly clear within 60 hours.
And the defendant seems to love it now and very proud of it, so it's in a good place anyway.
Yeah.
Case 2134, Wimberly versus Mahara. All parties, please step forward.
Tina Wimberly is suing auto body worker Robert Miera for a refund of a 1969 VW Bug paint job.
Miss Wimberly, tell me about this car that you have.
So I have a 69 Volkswagen Beetle. I've had the car for about 20 years.
Where did you buy it?
In Salt Lake City, Utah.
Is it a bus or a Bug?
It's a Bug.
My goodness, I remember everyone had one of those cars. The whole world had those little Bugs when they came out, except me. Scared to death. Okay. Anyway, you've had it for a long time and you try to keep it restored. Do you have a photograph of it?
I do, yes,
I'd like
ma'am.
to take a look at it, please.
Caption coming up.
You acknowledge it's unsatisfactory because you said,
I didn't
I'll
acknowledge.
fix
I said I'd take care of it. And a good gesture to try to make things work with her. I did not deny her any kind of service or say, go get lost, until she started cursing at me.
No.
She didn't tell you she was cursing at me, you know.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Tina and Robert.
Tina Wimberly claims auto body worker Robert Miera owes a refund on a 1969 VW Bug paint job.
As you're getting that, the case is simple. You want your money back for a bad paint job that you say that Mr. Miera did on the car.
A photo.
So this is a picture of the car before he painted it?
No, ma'am, that's after.
Oh, that's after?
Yes.
Oh, doesn't look bad.
From afar.
Listen, when you're born in 1964, everything looks better from afar. Okay, and that's an interesting color. Do you have a photograph of what the car looked like before you took it in to the defendant?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
But I have pictures of after the bubbling that it's doing.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Tina hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews images of bubbles in the purple paint on the hood of the vehicle.
Okay. Have you shown these pictures of the bubbling to Mr. Miera?
I have, Your Honor.
And you've seen them, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the story. You brought your car into Mr. Miera to paint it. He gave you a price. The price was?
Originally, it was $3,500.
What did you ultimately pay him?
$6,500.
Okay, so you paid him $6,500 to paint it. When had you brought him the car?
In January.
Of what year?
2021.
And when did you pick the car up from him?
May of 21. I was moving from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Louisiana, and as May got closer and closer, I kept telling him, I'm leaving, I'm leaving.
Okay, the car was there from January until May.
Yes, ma'am.
You picked the car up in May. Was it ready in May?
Yes, ma'am.
When she picked it up?
Yes, it was ready when she picked it up.
When had you painted it?
Probably painted it at the beginning of April.
No, ma'am.
Is that when you started sanding it down, I assume?
Oh, no, she actually sanded the car down herself.
So the car was completely sanded when you got it?
No, it wasn't completely sanded. We had an agreement that she was supposed to help me repair the car. You know, that's why I gave her a price that I did, because she wanted to help and learn how the process went.
Okay.
So
just look up for me.
So I gave her
1969 VW Bug.
So I gave her
found
the
it on the
chance
classic car.
to
Okay,
learn the
but
process.
you say it was ready when she picked it up.
Yes.
Okay, and she showed you the pictures of the bubbling on the car.
Yes.
And she paid you $6,500.
Yes.
Well, I would have a trouble with that bubbling myself.
Of course, I understand.
So?
I offered to fix the car.
And?
She didn't want to bring it back.
Well, that's far to bring it back.
Well, that's all I can do. I can offer to fix it, you know.
Well, by offering to fix it, you acknowledge that I would say as a layperson, this is not what I would expect.
Well, I said
this was not what I would expect if I paid $6,000
of course
to paint a car. And what steps, because this bubbling seems to be in various spots of the car, so it's impossible, and I'm a lay person, you know, I went to law school.
Yeah.
I didn't go to mechanic school or painting school, but I've lived a long time, and when you have spots like this on anything, either a wall or a car, you can't just spot fix it, right?
No, you can spot fix it.
It's all over the car, Your
Just a
Honor.
second.
Yeah.
Well, it's been my experience that you can't spot fix it because this is a bright color. It was done now almost a year and a half ago, and you're not going to be able to match colors because car colors like bright ones fade. So if you just do it in spots, it'll look like a leopard.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
There's ways to adjust the paint, the color of the paint.
Well,
you can tint
Mr. Miera, she is not bringing the car to New Mexico when she now lives in Louisiana.
Yes.
Because that would cost her. I know I transport cars of mine when I move around, and that's very expensive. Not quite as expensive as the paint job, but close, which would mean she would have to incur a substantial expense to get you back the car from a paint job that clearly was unsatisfactory.
Well,
that you acknowledge as unsatisfactory because you said,
I didn't
I'll
acknowledge.
fix
I said I'd take care of it in a good gesture to try to make things work with her. I did not deny her any kind of service or say, go get lost until she started cursing at me.
No.
She didn't tell you she was cursing at me, you know.
Well, Mr. Miera, if what I say you would have to do would be to start over, sand down the car, which she did herself, according to you, because if she sanded
got
the
a
car...
discount for working on her. She worked on her own car, so she got a discount for working on her own car. So she had her hand in it as well.
That's terrific. You're going to give her back her money, $6,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I think when she transported the car the moisture and the climate that she took it to may have played a factor.
I totally disagree with what he said because I took it from his house, put it in another van.
And having the car bubble like that, but you know, I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that could happen.
And the moisture with what he's claiming, there's no way.
I tried to rectify the situation and it didn't work out, so.
Time to get it looking good again.
Sarah and Judy.
He never got back to me about how much the 1969 Beetles were worth. And I was surprised because reading the papers, reading a $6,500 paint job, I was surprised at that. Like, that was very expensive to me. But then when I looked up how much the cars are worth, they're worth anywhere between $12,000 and $35,000 for a nicely kept, maintained vintage car, similar to the one that I saw briefly in the photos.
I'm sorry for not getting back to you.
It's okay.
I got caught up.
But I think you made the right call because after the paint job, we saw the damage or the bubbling, and I know that you or I would not be satisfied with that paint job on an asset that was worth that amount of money.
Of course.
So I think the right thing happened.
I'm sorry. Forgive me.
It's okay.
I'll try not to do it again.
You.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Did you file a restraining order against him?
I did. He came to my house unannounced and told me that I was fired.
He called and made threats, basically talking about I'm gonna come to your house and everything.
No.
Play with me. I'll show up at your house.
Yeah, that's a threat.
This is Judy. Jeremy DeTorres is suing his former employer, Chad Young, for unpaid wages and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2140, DeTorres versus Young.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. DeTorres, according to your complaint, you did some work for the defendant as a plumber. Didn't work out, and he terminated you, and he owes you some wages.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that while your work in the beginning was okay, you were never an employee of his. You're an independent contractor. That's the way he sets it up, and he's going to explain that to me. That he paid you your wages, even though the last job that you did cost him an awful lot to repair. He was not happy with the quality of work that you did, and his counterclaim is for vandalism, something that happened with his truck, work hours lost due to your incompetence. That I'm not going to hear, sir. You know, you make a choice with an employee, and if it turns out to be something that is less than satisfactory, then you let them go. But the one who I assume suffered from what you call lack of quality work that he performed was the person that you were working for. Was that a private residence that he was doing work in?
Yes. Yeah, a bunch of private residents.
Yeah, that's the person who suffered.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're going to make this as easy as possible. From what days to what days did you work?
I worked for Chad from June 13th to August 3rd.
And how much were you supposed to be paid?
For those 3 days, $840.
And that's for 3 days' work?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say June 13th?
Yes, ma'am.
To August 3rd?
Correct.
Well, that's more than 3 days.
No, his wage he owes me from August 1st to August 3rd is what he did not pay me for.
Okay, and where did you work during those days?
Multiple residents.
Okay, do you have any sort of a call log from him?
I do. It's right here in my
Do you dispute that he worked from August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd?
Yes.
You dispute that
There was one day he actually did one of my jobs for a couple hours that day.
Doesn't matter. He has a log.
Half a day for one day.
Did you pay him for that half day?
I did not because the job was done incorrectly multiple times.
But he did that job. Okay, now, do you have a log?
As in?
It's some sort of a work log. You have a business. You have people who are general contractors. You get a call. You don't have a payroll because you pay these people independently. Do you pay them in cash or check?
Both.
Well, how did you pay him?
Sometimes it was through a cashier's check and sometimes it was cash.
Okay, but never through a company check where you deducted Social Security.
No, because I 1099 all my employees, so they're all self-employed, so they have to do all that on their own.
I do understand. I mean, you're not the inventor of this whole system, sir, of paying in cash. Okay. Are you one of those independent contractors?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. How long have you been an independent contractor?
I've been contracted with Chad since July 5th.
Of what year?
This year, 2022.
Oh, so short term.
Yes, ma'am.
Does he pay you in check or cash?
Uh,
No, look at me.
check at first, and then later on it became through Venmo, and then it's gone back to check now.
What kind of check?
Cashier's check.
Just a straight cashier's check with nothing taken out.
No, ma'am.
No, I go to my bank to get all that.
What?
I go to my bank to get the cashier's checks, and sometimes I Venmo him the payment too, just to pay.
I understand, but sir, you're not the first person who I know who pays their people in cash and says that you're independent contractors. You're independent contractors. I don't want to know about it. What name do you use for the cashier's checks?
My personal name.
Is this the first time you've worked for him?
Yes.
Okay, let me see what you have for August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Where did you work? Come on.
There were multiple residents, ma'am.
Well, you have to tell me so that he can answer. He said that you worked half a day that he didn't pay you for.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say that's a full day. So that's $200.
Okay, see, he would email it on his work phone, and I'd follow the addresses there.
Well, then you would have it on your phone.
my short notes on this.
Just a second. Then you would have it on your phone.
It was his company phone. He took it back when he came to my house unannounced and told me that I was fired. Redeemed his truck, got my tools out of his vehicle.
Okay, just a second. Do you have your phone?
I do. I have my personal one that I.
What about the phone that you took from him?
No, that one's actually broke, so it's been with Mo for the past week.
Let me see the notes that you have that you took.
Yes, ma'am.
Jeremy hands a notepad to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
Fascinating.
It's my shorthand, ma'am.
How do I know what dates these are for?
It was all on his phone, ma'am.
Well, that's not him to have to prove, sir.
I wasn't able to prove anything when he took his phone back. I just had that's the notes when I was employed for him, as I wrote down.
It's not helpful to me.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, the only thing that he's acknowledged is that he owes you a day's wages.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is $210. The other part of your complaint is a false restraining order against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you file a restraining order against him? Do you have a copy of what you wrote in your restraining order?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
Chad hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So what got me that restraining order is he called, made threats, and made
Was
threats.
this after you fired him?
It was.
Okay, so after you fired him, he called you.
Made threats.
Well, what did he say when he called you?
Just basically talking about I'm gonna come to your house and everything.
He wanted money.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
He said, you didn't pay me.
Yeah.
Okay. You say you got a text message and voicemail from Jeremy threatening to come to my place of residence.
Yes.
Can I hear it?
Yeah. Do you want me to play it, or do you want to look at it?
I want to look at it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Torres, did you, after he fired you and came to your residence, took your house, did you call him threatening to come to his house?
I did.
You did?
With the police. It says it on these text messages, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to take his phone and those text messages.
Kevin brings documents and Chad's phone to Judy.
There's more text. That's just the one where he said he'd send me my money.
That's the voicemail, if you want me to play it for you. Sometimes the transcription doesn't work.
Yeah.
You want me to play it?
Just.
Sarah presses a button on Chad's phone.
Hey, bro. I definitely worked more than 9 hours for the last week that I worked for you. I'll be contacting my... Play with me. I'll show up at your house.
Yeah, that's a threat.
With the police.
Just a second. That's a threat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've had more.
That's a threat.
I had more incidents before that as well.
May I say something, ma'am? He accused me of going into his gated community, slashing tires on his work vehicle. I stated that I was going to come to his house after, if you read my text, I said to him, hey, bro, I think I misunderstood your text message. If I did, my bad. If not, I'll show up at your house with the police. I never went to his house. I waited to see if he'd be the big man and just send me my money like he said he would.
I listened to the message, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
The message sounded threatening.
Did you read the rest of them?
I don't care. That message sounded threatening.
Caption coming up.
Where does it say here that his tires were slashed?
In my mind, somebody writing that against me, flattened tires, what else would it be?
But you have to understand that that's not what this says.
And later today.
I was financially struggling.
Well, you weren't living together at the time.
No, she would periodically come over and
yeah, but you weren't living together at the time. So how would she find out that you were in financial trouble?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jeremy and Chad.
Jeremy DeTorres claims his former employer, Chad Young, owes for unpaid wages and filing a false restraining order.
Okay, that message alone, if he felt threatened because you were going to come to his house, and you not only said you were going to come to his house, but you used an expletive before you did that, which sounded threatening. This may be more benign, but that phone message was sufficient for him to file for a protective order against you.
Okay, why didn't he show up at the protective custody order?
I don't answer your questions.
No,
you don't
you're
necessarily.
absolutely.
Some people don't pursue it because once it's done, it's done.
It wasn't done.
And once it's
This
done,
is the dismissal right here. Dismissal for the
No,
injunction.
I didn't show up. I understand he didn't show up, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm saying to you, I listened to your text message, and he had an absolute right to see.
Can you see where he threatened me as well with all these back and forth texts and calling each other? Because it's in the text
You're
messages.
suing him for money owed for wages and filing a false restraining order.
Okay.
You've proven that you worked an additional day for which he didn't pay you, which is $210. He has a counterclaim. He says that you vandalized the tires on his car. The rest of it, I'm not dealing with, sir. You picked this employee. You don't then sue the employee if you don't like the job that they do. You fire them and you get somebody else to do the job. But you can't sue him because did the person who you did the job for sue you?
No, because I've got a really good reputation with my customers.
Because you fixed it. Because it wasn't done right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even up to that last day I said he worked for me, that job I had to go back to 2 weeks ago that they couldn't close on the house.
And next time you won't hire him. Yeah. Maybe other people won't either. But I want you to tell me about the tires. I want you to tell me what proof do you have that he had anything to do with your tires? When were the tires slashed, flattened?
So the police report was done Friday when he made the threats.
Friday, what date?
I got the date right here. I think it was
August 5th.
Yeah, so August 5th is when he did it.
August 5th is when
the police report was made for the threats.
For the threat, for the voicemail?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it was the end of the day Friday, so court's closed for the weekend.
August 5th?
Yep. And then Monday, the 8th, I went outside to go to work. My tires were slashed in the end. At that point, I realized it was just over and done, and I need to go down and get a restraining order so people can't come onto my, my property.
Because you believed it was the plaintiff who was responsible. You believed you didn't have proof at the time.
Yes.
You didn't have proof.
Again, and even in my injunction, I knew all I needed was this police report to get the injunction, so I just put in my police report.
You're not talking about an injunction. You're talking about a restraining order.
Yeah, the restraining order. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to file the restraining. So in my restraining order, I put just my tires were flat. I did not put my tires were slashed at any point because I knew the police report was enough to get the restraining order.
Okay, your
so I
tires
didn't
were
go in
flat.
detail about my tires.
Okay, so in the police report, you have that your tires were flattened.
No, that wasn't on the police report because that didn't happen yet. The tire incident did not happen.
Okay.
That happened Friday. Monday morning, I went out in my vehicle to go to work. That's when I found them flat and slashed.
Did you file another police report?
That's when I went and filed the restraining order that day. And I have
Okay,
a
and in
copy
the
of that
application for restraining order, you said?
that my tires were flat, and that was it.
Yes, okay.
I didn't mention that they were slashed.
Correct.
So I don't know how he would
Got
know
it.
my tires were slashed if I didn't mention it on my restraining order.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. Mr. DeTorres. Mr. DeTorres, stop your paper fluttering.
Okay.
What made you think that the defendant's tires were slashed rather than just the air let out of them?
Because I read this police report and it has a mark right here saying, or the file that he did.
Show me. And make a circle.
Right here, damaged property is what I read. He checked that I damaged his property because this is written against me.
Mr. DeTorres, do you understand my question, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm nervous in the
Just
flight.
a second. This has nothing to do with nerves,
You're
Mr.
right.
DeTorres.
Well, I had no sleep last night.
That has nothing to do with sleep.
As far as not being...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm asking you, Mr. DeTorres, is where does it say here that his tires were slashed?
In my mind, somebody writing that against me, flattened tires, what else would it be? He lives in a gated community.
Well, that could be...
Where's the surveillance showing me that my leg injury, the way I walk, is very distinctive? okay? If he's got proof that I slashed or flattened his tires, I said slashed. It's the same thing as flattened in my mind. That's the way I think. The way I read that, that's just how it came out of my mouth.
But you have to understand that that's not what this says.
Okay, it says that I damaged his
He
property.
said damaged his property, and you said slash tires.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
How much were the tires?
$450.
Let me see the receipt.
I do not have a receipt because I pay cash for my tires.
Well, that's too bad. You better stop paying cash, sir. You can pay cash for tires.
Yeah.
But when you buy tires with cash and you want to sue for them, you get a receipt.
Yeah.
From the people. And if you know you're coming to court, we're not talking about things that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You were coming to court today.
I went back to the tire shop and he's like, we just, you know, we always do cash for all your vehicles. And
Well, what do we
receipts, no
cash
nothing.
for all your vehicles? That means you get a receipt. All right, your counterclaim's dismissed because you have no proof of anything. On the complaint, sir, I'm awarding you $210, which is 1 day's pay. Thank you very much. This case is over.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Chad, then Jeremy.
The work just wasn't up to the quality that he promised he was going to offer.
It is what it is.
That's just his nature. That's always been his nature.
The judgment is what the judgment is. She felt like I was only awarded a day's pay, and that's what she gave me.
Keep doing what I do. That's all I can do every day.
Judy and Sarah.
Well, Sarah Rose, that is the perfect example of you're supposed to have proof when you come to court.
Yep. Standard of proof exists for a reason.
You know, I know that when I go someplace, and sometimes I pay cash. So even if you pay cash for something,
There's some
or Venmo,
record. Venmo
you're
is a good
supposed to
record.
get a receipt in the event that you want to use whatever you bought and use that fact that you purchased something in a subsequent lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as sending a gift. If you send somebody a gift, you keep the receipt until you know that they got the gift.
Yeah.
Then you take it and you throw it away. It's just
Good bookkeeping. It's good record keeping. I
And
think.
he's a business guy.
Yeah,
He's a business guy. Didn't make sense to me, but clearly plaintiff for somebody who has a little trouble.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Case 2137, Wise versus Light. All parties, please step forward.
Caitlin Weiss is suing her ex-boyfriend, Cody Lipe, for unpaid loans.
Ms. Weiss, the defendant was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time.
Correct.
And you allege a couple of loans. One from a year and a half ago, the balance of a $200 loan, he paid you back $100.
Yes.
Quite frankly, I'm not interested in what happened a year and a half ago.
Caption, coming up.
What you say is, I need time to catch up.
It was a verbal conversation.
Well, what's in writing is you saying to her, I can make payments to you. But the thing that you don't have in writing is where she gave the loan. Is that right?
Cody nods and shrugs. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Caitlin and Cody.
Caitlin Weiss claims her ex-boyfriend, Cody Lipe, is refusing to pay back loans she gave him during their relationship.
Okay, in March of this year, you allege that you gave him money. He was still your boyfriend in March of this year, is that right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in March of this year, he had gotten a car. What kind of car did you get?
It was a Buick Regal.
What year?
A 2004, I believe.
Where did you get it from?
I got it from a private seller.
How much did you pay for it?
$850.
Needed fixing.
Yes.
And you didn't have money for parts,
I did for the first round of parts.
but you didn't for the second?
After the first ones failed, I did not.
And how much did you need for parts?
That I don't remember.
Who bought them?
Miss Weiss did.
Did she buy them on a credit card?
I believe so, yes.
And you have no idea what you paid for those parts?
I don't remember.
But that would be in March of 2022.
It would have been in April.
Did you pay for the parts by credit card?
Yes, I paid between Cash App transactions that were transferred to Mr. Lipe through Cash App, which I have present here.
I'd like to see proof of them. What do they total?
They totaled up to $920.
Does that sound about right, Mr. Lippy?
That's about right.
Okay. And tell me about the discussion that you had with her when she paid for these parts.
There was a discussion of how I was going to pay her back.
And what did you tell her?
I did agree at that time.
And then what happened?
There were then later discussions as we were still in a relationship and I was in financial troubles that she told me not to worry about it.
This 920 was a loan in April of 2022. That's what you say. It was in April, not March.
Correct.
And then you say at some point she forgave that loan.
Right.
Tell me when that happened.
Shortly after the car got back together. which would have been in May. I was financially struggling.
Well, you weren't living together at the time.
No, she would periodically come over and
yeah, but
stay at
you
my
weren't living together at the time. So how would she find out that you were in financial trouble?
I mean, we were at that state in our relationship where she knew basically my financials all the time.
When did the two of you break up?
I believe that was in June.
So shortly after you say she forgave the loan.
That is correct.
Did you ever forgive this $920 loan?
No, I did not. Brennan Black was there the day that I had confronted Cody at a car meet and had offered him a short little payment of $790 where Cody said he would do it in payments.
Just a minute. You broke up in June.
Correct.
He says that you had a conversation before that, sometime in May, where you knew he was in financial difficulty. Did you ever have that conversation with him?
No, that is incorrect. I do have statements here to prove it as well.
I'd like to see them.
Caitlin hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews a transcript of a text exchange.
So then you said he owed you $970. He had been giving you some money?
Yes, he had been giving me
It says, so that puts you at $670, okay? That's what you wrote.
Correct. He had been giving me money periodically throughout the beginning of the car parts.
Okay, but it says, so that puts you at $670, okay?
Yes, there's more transactions on the Cash Apps as well.
Oh, after that?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
No, sir. What you say is I need time to catch up. There's no forgiving here unless you have some.
It was a verbal conversation.
Well, what's in writing?
Right.
What's in writing is you saying to her, I need some time to catch up. I can make payments to you. All of that is in writing. But the thing that you don't have in writing is where she forgave the loan. Is that right?
He shrugs.
Yeah. $920. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Cody, then Caitlin.
It is what it is.
I think it was fair. Mr. Lake did owe me money, and he got what he deserved.
Yes, she lent me the money, but at the same time, she was helping me out in a relationship, and she knew I was struggling.
He said he was going to pay me back and never followed through even after that.
There were discussions about her telling me not to worry about it.
Not to trust so much.
I'm never going to do it again.
Oh, that's going to be a contract.
Judy and Sarah.
She was very prepared.
Oh, she was to the point, knew exactly what she needed.
And she had all of her evidence.
Yep.
All
just the way we like it.
All lined up. It's unfortunate when a loan becomes a gift and a gift then becomes a loan when the romance is over. These writings are always so helpful, and these text messages really are making my life much easier.
And one thing that I mention a lot is with Cash App or Venmo, always state if you're paying someone money, don't just send the money, put in the subject line. They have a subject line on those for a reason, for this car part, for this tow, for this XYZ, the other. So I always, when using Venmo or Cash App or something like that in an online transfer system, I'll send the money, and then in the transaction, you can put whatever you want in the memo line of Venmo. So housekeeping for me, I'll pay through that. Other things, I list housekeeping for, and I put the date and the hours. So I at least have a record of who I'm paying electronically.
If you buy food,
or if I give someone money for dinner for half my meal, I say for my dinner on XYZ date.
And then you can get a
keeps it
printout.
Organized. Exactly.
And then you can, like a bank account?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It just keeps it organized. So I love it when litigants come in ready to go.
Well, that's good advice for people who use Venmo, to use the subject line.
Exactly. It makes our job easier.
Good.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you a victim of a scam? Go to judyjustice.tv.
মধু যারা কোডগুলা বের করে তাদের কেউ চিনেও না, তারা ধরেন আন্ডারওয়ার্ল্ডের মাফিয়া টাইপ কিছু একটা।
বুঝতে পারছি।
তার ভিতরে ফানি একটা কমেডি সেলার।